Hello, welcome to another episode of the Original Take, where we kind of look at kind of world events, we look at health issues, we look at things going on from the perspective of original medicine. Today, really excited to have with us Roudy Nassif, founder of VivaRays. We'll dive really more into that later on. So Roudy, welcome. I always like to say you will do a much better job of introducing yourself than I will. So maybe you could tell us a bit more about where you're from and where you're at right now.
Thanks. Yeah, my name is Roudy. I'm the founder of VivaRays, and I was originally born in Lebanon, and been traveling a lot, and left Lebanon a while ago. And right now I'm in Mexico, working remotely on VivaRays, as well as educating probably thousands of different holistic doctors about the truth there is to light and the power that it holds in our life and how it affects our sleep, our biology, and especially very important today because we live in a modern world where most people are spending most of their time indoors surrounded by artificial lighting from bulbs, screens. Most people think it's only screens, but it's not. You know, when you go to your kitchen, you turn on the lights, you're surrounded actually by artificial light. And this light is actually causing a lot of different health issues from and chronic issues from depression, anxiety, loss of productivity, even cancer, diabetes. And there's a lot of studies that are actually showing the detrimental effects of artificial light. So it's a pleasure to me at this time to be sharing a lot of knowledge about how to maximize healthy light in our life and minimize or actually eliminate artificial light so that we can live a healthy, vibrant, and radiant life. And most of all, to be happy and to be in our flow and our element as we're dealing with life and as we're responding to life.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, Roudy. So really excited to dive into that. But perhaps before we kind of dive into light and your journey building VivaRays, maybe just you can share a bit about your background, because I'm always very interested in people that, you know, have started something from nothing. There's always a backstory, like the hero origin. There's always a backstory. So maybe you could tell us a bit about your journey before VivaRays. I think from our discussions before that you have come from an engineering background. Maybe you could share a bit more about that, so people know where you're coming from.
Yeah, definitely. So, as a kid, I actually suffered from a lot of headaches, debilitating headaches, agitation, inability to focus. And back then, I was labeled to have ADHD. And that wasn't an easy label to me. I was a very intuitive guy, but not very understood from my surrounding. But I had to carry that label because I couldn't articulate as a kid. And growing up, I turned into a night owl. And, I lived a very interesting lifestyle as a night owl, like staying up late, super wired and stimulated, and waking up feeling exhausted, tired, and depressed. And, day after day living within that lifestyle, it led me to deep depression, chronic fatigue, and complete disorientation. And to be honest with you, was really sabotaging my professional life as an engineer, even my relationship with my loved ones and my aspirations and goals. I couldn't connect with my purpose. I couldn't connect with what I really want to do in life. And even my memory and cognition were really suffering. I mean, I would sit to study a book and 10 minutes later, I feel like I'm not able to focus. I need to take a nap. I'm feeling tired and so on. So as you may imagine, I was like desperately looking for a solution in order to feel better. But to be honest with you, I felt extremely tired and exhausted going from one doctor to another and very overwhelmed with all the different health opinions about what I should be doing. So to start, conventional medicine said that I should be taking prescription drugs. And thankfully, I had some awareness that this is not the right thing for me. So I embarked on a long journey of trying so many different diets, you name it, all the diets that you can think of, I've tried. Supplements, herbal formulas, and experimenting with so many different meditation techniques and physical exercise techniques. And while all of these things helped me build a really beautiful foundation, unfortunately, I was still stuck with the same cycle of feeling super wired at night and extremely exhausted and not having the energy and the vigor that I was looking for in my life during the day. Now, miraculously, one specific event in my life changed all of this. I went to a rural farm up in Quebec, in Canada, and I was camping there for 6 weeks. And on this farm, I was exposed only to natural light during the day and fire and candlelight during the evening. And that was something new to me, right? Having grown up in the city around artificial lights all the time. Now, that's the magic. Within a matter of 3 days, something phenomenal happened. I couldn't understand what. And I started winding down in the evening, sleeping shortly after the sunset, to then wake up before the sunrise for the first time in my life, feeling refreshed, energized, and focused. I mean, it blew my mind. I went from feeling foggy-headed, almost completely lost in life, to feeling very focused, very connected to everything around me. I was farming outdoors all day, dancing, cooking, hiking, deepening my relationship with my loved ones. And for the first time, really studying books and feeling that I'm actually absorbing the information from these books in a different way. So that actually blew my mind. But the thing is, this magic didn't last very long, because when I came back from the farm to the city, and within a matter of few weeks, I fell back into my old terrible routine of staying up very late, feeling wired, and waking up feeling extremely tired and exhausted. Now, I was sitting with myself and contemplating, like, what did change? And on the farm, I was still eating in the same way. I was still exercising in the same way, meditating in the same way. So, and I didn't take any supplements, nothing from that. So as I was like sitting with that and contemplating, like, what changed, and asking myself deeply in my heart. And the answer came like, light, pay attention to your light. And I was like, what, light? Like, how could that be possible? So that led me on a journey of 7 years of studying quantum biology, light, and circadian rhythm. And this journey changed my life, completely changed my life. And to put it like simply said, light is a phenomenal tool, because we are light beings, and everything around us is actually light, that is vibrating at a lower speed. And that's what Albert Einstein taught us through his law of relativity, E equal mc squared, which we can talk about a little bit more and explore. But the quality of the light that we expose ourselves to will determine the quality of our sleep, the quality of our focus, productivity, and ability to make decisions in life and to connect to our purpose.
No, that's amazing, Roudy. And I think it's what you said is really powerful. We are beings made of light. We often don't think of it like that. We're like, no. You kind of touch your hand, you're like, there's no shining, there's no light bulb coming from my hand, or what's going on. But I think it's really interesting that you kind of challenge us to think a bit differently. Like, we are beings made of light. Yeah, it's kind of hard to get your head around, but we'll definitely dive more into that later on. For those that also are sharing my question marks in their head, having spoken with Roudy before, it's really cool how he brings everything together. But just circling back a little bit in what you said, Roudy. I mean, I know that you said that you kind of had an engineering background, and I know that you're now founder of VivaRays. So in between that, something happened that took you on a different path. Maybe you could just share with us a bit more about that, because I know that we have many people in natural health that are interested in kind of establishing themselves. They have a passion for it. They want to help people, but they're kind of maybe a bit apprehensive about taking that jump if they're, a nurse, or if they're from other professions. Maybe just share a bit about your journey and what caused you to change paths in life.
See, the number one thing that caused me to change path is that I was honest with myself of being unhappy with the circumstances and conditions that I found myself in as an engineer. So that's number one step. And I would say the most important step is acknowledging that we are not actually happy, and we cannot help someone else if we do not fill our cup first. Interestingly, yesterday I was having a conversation with an MD here in Mexico. She's traveling, and it was a very emotional conversation to her because she was really crying, and she wasn't happy with what she's doing. And the reason why she's on different shifts, day and night, and her body is suffering. And you could see that in her eyes, in her vibration. Everything about her is, and everything in her body is giving a sign that, hey, there's something about your life that you got to change. So I sat with her and I listened, and I said, you know what, like, she has like a deep desire to like transform the medicine industry. And I said, like, I hear your desire, I feel your desire, but first you gotta help yourself first. If you're truly like depleted and not sleeping well and on a roller coaster and not taking care of yourself first, you're not gonna be able to help someone else. So to come back to your question, what really triggered the courage in me to leave my job and go into the unknown and be okay with that is the acknowledgement that I'm not happy and that there's a lot more into life than what I think. And a sense of deep surrender that let me go explore and see, you know, what is there, what is out there for me that I'm not yet able to see. And see, I'd always say light creates reality. And it's now very well known that it's programming all of our neurotransmitters and hormones that enable us to make a model of ourselves in space and time and perceive. And this is very important because if the quality of the lighting that we're exposing ourselves to is not programming our neurotransmitter in a way that is empowering, it's going to lead us to perceive ourselves and a world from a low point. And when we're stuck in this low point, it's like being in a room, you know, with four walls and thinking that this is reality, this box. But truth is, there's infinite possibilities. And when you start taking care of your light environment, which we're going to talk more about in a practical means, you start increasing your dopamine, your serotonin, and all of those neurotransmitters and hormones that enable you to be more happy, but like even more importantly, that enable you to enhance your ability to see. Because even though we could be looking, we might not be seeing, right? And you know, looking with our eyes does not mean that we are actually seeing. And seeing is much more than looking, and it requires a healthy level of dopamine and of serotonin so that we are actually able to see beyond that veil, beyond our limitations, and that we start having the courage to push through those limitations and step into our power, step into what our heart is calling, what we really want to do, where we really find ourselves wanting to serve and to offer and to give.
Yeah, and you mentioned, you know, this journey, and you mentioned courage. I think that's a very interesting word that you would use there. Was that courage always inside you, or were there kind of some external things that kind of triggered that thought process where you reached the point where you were aware and you said, hey, I'm not happy here? But then that awareness that I'm not happy, as you said, the word courage, you have to have the courage to stand up and make some changes to be on that journey to happiness. Was there anything outside of just you that kind of triggered that process or assisted or helped in that process?
Yeah, that's an interesting question. I guess like the suffering and the pain was one of the biggest triggers for me to actually snap out and say enough pain, enough suffering, enough fear, enough limitations. And you know, like the opposite of courage, in my opinion, is like fear and ignorance. But ignorance of what? Ignorance of knowing your true power, of knowing who you really are and what you're capable of. So I guess when I took the decision to travel, I was really frightened. I was really feeling so much fear in my body, and I didn't know what the future is going to hold for me. To me, it was a dark future. It was like, but it was like, it couldn't be darker than like the unhappiness that I was feeling in my body. And again, like I want to re-emphasize the importance of acknowledging our feelings, because when we acknowledge that we're not happy, when we acknowledge that there is a sense in our body that is telling us that there is something more for us in this world, this is the number one step. Now, is it going to be like magic, like acknowledging and boom, feeling yourself to, be in a successful position? No, there's going to be a transition, and you're going to feel scared. That's normal, and it's good to acknowledge that, to sit with that, and to transmute it, because the moment you acknowledge it, you're capable of transmuting it. Now, your habits are going to really enable you to go through that journey in a much more elevated state. And what do I mean by habits? When I was stuck in the habits of staying up very late in front of screens, in front of artificial lights at night, that was sabotaging to my dopamine, to my serotonin. I found myself eating at night, watching television, waking up the following day really late, feeling tired. Even though I would have those inspirations at night that, whoa, I want to change the world, I will wake up the following morning with very little dopamine, because it's very well known that seeing a lot of artificial light at night at a time when it's dark outside actually depletes your dopamine and decreases your memory and cognition. And you're most likely to wake up the following morning feeling unsatisfied and unhappy. And here's the thing, at night, you'll be like feeling this inspiration that you want to change the world. You wake up the second morning and there's no vigor, there's no energy. Well, guess what? Your dopamine is low, and you're actually doing things in disharmony with the cycles of nature. Nature has its own way. And if we look around, there is a lot of light during the day and there's a lot of darkness at night. And this light and dark cycle, this polarity of yin and yang, communicate to every aspect of our being. Every hormonal system in our body, every tissue, every cell is wired to receive this light dark information from our environment, so that we can work in complete harmony. And this will lead us to start sleeping better. When we start sleeping better, we start waking up feeling much better. We go outside, we have the vigor to go run, to see the sun. And all of these, building those habits and stacking them up, is extremely important to be able to sustain ourselves in a sustainable way as we are transitioning from a position of fear to a position of love.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful, and I think there's not enough people in the world and in society, to be honest with you, Roudy, that really take the time to look at themselves. We've had some great conversations in our online community about really regularly looking in the mirror of self. We're going through life and we've actually lost the relationship with ourselves. We don't know who we are, and that creates huge mental issues. But we're still having to provide for our family, care for our family, do work at, do our job at work. So really, I really resonate with what you shared there in terms of really knowing yourself. That's the basic step one, ground zero of really starting to live a fulfilled life. You have to know yourself. And as you probably know, you that fear that you have when you really look at yourself, sometimes it's not something really a beautiful person looking back at you. You see your own faults, you see your own flaws, and you're like, eh. But I think that having the courage, I go back to that word you used earlier, having that courage to look at yourself, accept yourself, love yourself, and then being able to move forward and say, but I want to be happy, I deserve to be happy. I think it's so important. So I resonate so much, Roudy, with what you said there. So just hopefully that's given a really good picture of Rudy's hero origin story. And as many of you know, origin stories aren't always beautiful. They're not always rosy, and they're often kind of fraught with pain and setbacks. So Rudy, thank you for kind of being vulnerable and sharing that with us. So that kind of dark night of the soul, if I can, and crystallize when you're at the farm and you're like, wow, what's happening? You mentioned it started you on a 7-year journey. Obviously, that has really kind of triggered your a depth in your learning and knowledge about light. So maybe you could share with us, some of the learning, some of the main reflections that you have now discovered about light and its kind of hidden impact on our life. And we can just talk through more the science, because I know you love the science. So maybe we can kind of have a conversation about that.
Yeah, definitely. So, and I think people would appreciate it, because anytime you're jumping into something or you're trying to do something new, the first step is understanding, right? And the second step is experiencing the understanding so that you can transform information into true knowledge. And that was a mirror, so to speak, to my journey during those 7 years. Is I was studying, but not only studying, I was living that which I'm studying, which transformed the information into actual knowledge and enabled this information to go from being superficially stuck maybe in my brain to go much deeper into my consciousness. So I want to start by talking about a very simple quantum equation by Albert Einstein: E equal mc squared. And E is light, m is mass, and c velocity. And this equation literally means that light and matter are exactly the same thing, and that we are light beings. And
Why is that,
everything around
Rudy?
you.
Why is that? Because I know there are people. I'm going to speak on behalf of the people that are listening to me. Like, I know about Albert Einstein. I know about E equals mc squared. But light. Break it down for us, Rudy. Like in real simple terms. Why is that?
Well, basically, because everything is light. This is what this equation is it means, and it also means that matter is light that has a lower that is vibrating at a lower speed. And we all know that our bodies are constituted of matter. Our organs are matter in motion. So like everything around us is like, from the earth itself, is light that is vibrating at a lower speed. So if we start looking at this equation and thinking to ourselves, how can I make use of this information? Well, basically, most people nowadays are jumping from one diet to another, okay? And while food is extremely important, it's the fuel through which we get the energy to move and to do the things that we want to do. We got to remember the basis of all the food chain is light through photosynthesis. We all learned that plants actually are storing light energy. And in return, when we eat those plants, we have something called the mitochondria, which I'm going to explain a little bit more about, that reverse that process and break down the glucose into electrons and protons. Now, electrons and protons are light particles that our mitochondria use to make ATP, which is energy and water. So let's take a step back and talk a little bit about mitochondria, because mitochondria are those little engines in our bodies, in our cells, that break all of the food that we eat and produce all of our energy in the form of ATP, or adenosine triphosphate, and a special kind of water that is a very important water, and it's called metabolic water or deuterium depleted water. And this water is actually used by all of our organs and cells for metabolic functions. Okay, now, in a nutshell, the better our mitochondria is working, the more ATP and water it produces. And as humans, the more energy we have to carry out optimal daily functioning, from clear thinking to imagining to being able to digest well. Even sleeping and healing at night requires energy. Now, here's the thing. It has recently come to light that not only mitochondria produces ATP and water, but it plays an absolutely essential role in sensing what is going on in the environment, and it mediates communication between the environment and the cell. Okay, and guess what? The most important information that is continuously being transmitted to our cells is light. And this is because across the 1.5 billion years of evolution, those mitochondria evolved from a single cell organism called bacteria. And they evolved around the ocean to get those light waves from sunlight, which increases in intensity and in the blue and green light as the sun rises from the horizon, travel across the skies. And then it starts descending down in intensity and in the blue and green light frequencies to transition into the darkness of the night. And this phenomena that happened every 24 hours across billion years of evolution is the most important phenomena to anchor ourselves into the environment that we live in. You can think of light as information, and this information is continuously telling our body about the time of the day, the time of the season in our geographical location, so that we could make the necessary adaptation to the seasonal changes, to the time change throughout the day.
Wow. It's really interesting. We often kind of assume that systems we have just, oh yeah, it just happened, it just. But when you really start to mine down and share with us, Roudy, you're like, okay, but this is how these systems work. These are how, how much information is conveyed. Like, it's really awesome, and I think it's one where we're so busy in our daily lives, we're so caught up in what we have to do, we don't have time to stop and appreciate these facts. So I think it's really cool that you're able to bring that out for us, because there's until we had the pleasure of meeting, I would never have thought of light and the fact that we actually are light. And actually, you heard about E=mc². Yeah, well, that proves it. Something seemingly so simple once but we're so busy to really deeply reflect on it, and I think we don't have a lot of time to deeply reflect on things. So taking it to a very practical level, Roudy, you've mentioned kind of the basis of light. Now, how does that practically come out in our daily lives? You mentioned screen. Obviously, there's a lot of people that, over the pandemic, all meetings kind of switched to Zoom, so there's a high exposure to kind of screen time. How have you seen, how are we exposed to artificial light in our modern society, and dare I say even our kind of pandemic society? What kind of dangers are we exposed to in artificial light that maybe aren't so obvious?
Yeah, that's a great question. And I always tell people that, getting a great night's sleep consistently and waking up feeling refreshed and energized doesn't happen by chance. And people get surprised. They're like, oh yeah, yes, it doesn't happen by chance. It actually happens by design. And how well we sleep and how rested we feel every morning when we wake up is actually governed by a universal code or law. And this code or law is known right now in the scientific terms as the circadian rhythm, okay? And circadian actually comes from the Latin word circa and dia, which means about 24 hours. Okay, and I always like to tell people about how deeply we are connected to everything around us, because this rhythm doesn't only exist for us as a human beings. It actually exists for all plants and for all animals as well, because we all experience an unescapable daily change in our environment. And this change is simply the day must become night, and the night becomes day again. And in order for us to adapt to this daily change, we had to develop an internal clock. We can think of it as such, that sits in the brain, and it actually controls the timing of our daily functions to an optimal time of the day or the night during the 24-hour cycle. And this clock is designed to be anchored when we go outside every morning and watch the sunrise, because it signals to all of our to the millions of cellular clocks that exist in our body that the day has started. And it kickstarts our day by helping us produce all of the hormones and neurotransmitters that our body needs in order to be alert, focused, productive, and happy. Now, what most people do is that they wake up in the morning and they stay indoors in very dim artificial lighting that is not enough to signal to their central clock that the day has started. And this causes, it reverses their day and night, so to speak. So when we wake up, our melatonin level, the sleep hormone, is supposed to go down, and our cortisol level, which is known as the stress hormone, but it's not necessarily in a bad way, because you actually need a healthy pulse of cortisol in the morning so that you can start feeling awake, alert, focused, and ready for the day. And this healthy pulse of cortisol, it actually increases your blood pressure, and your heart picks up a few more beats per minute, and your muscles start tensing so that you can start moving and acting. Okay. And when we stay indoors, or we start our day by looking on our phone, we're actually disrupting this natural rhythm. And this is very dangerous, because what happens is, if you wake up in the morning, let's say, you take your phone and you start looking at your screen, the screen emits a color temperature of 6,500 kelvins, which is similar to sunlight's color temperature at 12 noon. Now, the problem with that is your cells are very intelligent, and you have systems in your eyes, or protein called melanopsin, that actually signal to those cells about the information you're getting from the environment. So the cells start thinking that they're being late, right? Because they're thinking it's 12 noon and it's actually 6 a.m. And this puts so much stress and anxiety on your system to start speeding up, to catch up to what it's actually, to the false information that it's receiving from the phone. So this is only one little example of how destructive this can be. Now, if we shift to the second part of the day, or the second part of the dual aspect of thing, at night, we are designed to get complete darkness, because when our eyes start perceiving the absence of blue and green light, they send a signal to the central clock in the hypothalamus in the brain, letting it know that the day is ending. And at this particular second, our cortisol, the stress hormone, adrenaline, and all of these hormones that wire us start dropping down. Okay. And that's when we start winding down, we start feeling calm and relaxed. And that's when actually our bodies start preparing for a great night's sleep. Because at this moment also, our organs start preparing for not receiving food anymore. And they start signaling that in a few hours is going to be repair and rejuvenate time. And melatonin start rising. Now, when melatonin rises, it travels into the blood, into every part in our cells. And melatonin is not only the hormone that is going to allow you to sleep well, or is going to enable you to fall asleep, but it's also the highest antioxidant in nature. Now, why is that important? Because in our society, 90% of people are extremely inflamed. Now, why is that? Because they're not giving their bodies the chance to clean off inflammation. And we are designed as human beings to clean ourselves off on a cellular level at night when sleeping. But you could be sleeping and not cleaning yourself. Why is that? Because you're actually exposing your eyes to artificial light after the sunset that is very rich in the blue and green light frequencies. And this confuses the brain about the time of the day. So even though you go to sleep and you sleep for 8 hours, you're not cleaning and repairing yourself on a cellular level. And the danger in this, that it happens subconsciously. It's in this quantum field that most of us are not attuned to yet. We are very attuned to our senses and what we see and we hear and we touch. But guess what? The real things are happening in the quantum world at the cellular level. And subconsciously, we are sabotaging ourselves because our cells are not getting the rest that they need. And which means that we wake up the following morning feeling extremely drained, on a cellular level, and this might not show up right away. And this also explains why I was still feeling drained and extremely tired even after optimizing my diet, my supplements, and my herbal formulas. Simply, I wasn't giving myself enough darkness at night for my cells to clean and repair, or to run the dishwasher, so to speak.
Wow. I mean, if you're not kind of pausing now and thinking how deeply you can be sabotaging yourself, and how deeply the societal structures we have are sabotaging, our own and promoting our own individual health. Yeah, wake up. This is a really great conversation. Rewind if you need to. Start at this section, and go over it again, because what Roudy is saying is super important. If you're feeling that unhappiness that you were mentioning earlier, Roudy, actually there may be things you can do to contribute to help pull yourself out. You're sabotaging yourself. You stop sabotaging yourself, actually you have much more energy and much more opportunity to really chase that happiness and secure that happiness for yourself that you mentioned earlier. So super powerful stuff. Thank you so much. In terms of just education, just taking a quick tangent here, Roudy, if people are interested in kind of digging, they have a real sciencey brain, or they're just genuinely curious about this, is there a place or resources that they can dig into to kind of deepen their own knowledge on this topic?
Yes, definitely. So if they go on www.vivarays.com, we have a phenomenal e-booklet that we've written. It's called Light, the Key to Mastering Your Sleep and Energy. And I say phenomenal, not because I have written it, it's because it's an accumulation of 7 years of deeply studying quantum biology and circadian rhythm, and a deep desire to put those aspects in practical means, so that people could read it, in a matter of few hours, and actually know what they can do to start changing their life, and to start sleeping better and having more energy and focus, and to start becoming more productive. So I highly recommend this e-booklet. It's a great summarization for the quantum biology and the circadian rhythm parts of the science. And every section almost is accompanied by practical steps that you can take today in order to start elevating your light environment to a whole new level of alignment with nature. And you're gonna feel the difference right away. And also, if you follow our page, VivaRays, on Instagram and Facebook, we share a lot of educational material. So this is what I would recommend. And I would also love to share maybe like few simple steps that people could start taking today in order to feel the difference.
Yeah,
So,
please do. Go ahead, shoot.
Number one is, as soon as the sun sets, decreasing our exposure to artificial lights. Now, this could happen in different ways. Obviously, if we had a really good control of our environment, we could, light up candles and have a fireplace. But I do recognize that not all of people have access to those things, and we often find ourselves after the sunset in an environment where we don't have the full control of the light that is going to enter our eyes. And this is when I truly recommend people to invest in a high quality lens technology system like the VivaRays glasses, which we could talk a little bit more about. But they are designed actually to filter out the unwanted light that confuses the brain about the time of the day, so that you could sink in with the environment and start sleeping better. So that's step number one, blocking artificial light at night. If you're in an environment where you can control your light environment, putting on some candles and warm lights that are closer to the floor level, and that they're not so much overlighting, is also a better option. Now, number two is waking up in the morning, and first thing going out, facing east and watching the sunrise, directly or indirectly. Obviously, directly is better than indirectly, but even if it's cloudy, all you need to do is to invest more time outside to get those photons activating your system. Okay, so if it's a bright blue sky day, you probably want to be outside for 15 minutes at least. The more the better. I'm usually out for an hour and a half at least in the morning, doing my own meditation, exercising, doing my thing outside. Now, if you find yourself, or if you think to yourself, well, I'm short on time for any reason, uh, the minimum time that I would recommend is 15 minutes. But if it's a cloudy or overcast day, you definitely want to extend your outdoor presence so that you could collect more photons over time, because you have access to less photons when it's really cloudy. Number
What would you
three,
say? What would you say, Rudy? Sorry, just to interrupt you before you move on. If it
yes,
is a cloudy day, I happen to be based in the United Kingdom. Sun, it's almost like I've forgotten what it looks like at some points in the year. If it is cloudy, what would you advise in terms of time? You mentioned 50 minutes if there is good sun. If it is cloudy, what would you say is a good number to shoot for?
a minimum of 35, and if it's overcast, a minimum of 45 minutes.
Okay, that's
Okay.
great.
And again, I don't want to get stuck on those numbers, because the more you can invest in being outside, the better. And you could get creative. You could start positioning your office in a way that is really close to windows, or even outside, like I'm doing right now. And anytime you're indoors around windows, you want to make sure that you're opening those windows, because all windows, with no exceptions, they are designed to filter out a lot of beneficial light frequencies, and they make the frequency of light that is coming in very distorted, which has its own problems, and arguably it causes different diseases when you're getting this distorted light information. So always aiming for opening the window a little bit, so that you make sure you're getting undistorted light. And number three, very important, is throughout the day taking sun breaks and intentionally making the decision to go outside for 5 and 10 minutes and resyncing back to this light environment outdoors. Okay, we all know that, like, we're in a society where almost all the smokers, they take cigarette breaks. Now maybe we can transition into a level of consciousness where we can start taking sun breaks instead. So
That would be amazing.
and number four, around the time when the sun is setting, that's a very important time to be outside and to witness that slowly fading light, because as I mentioned, light is information, and this signals to your body and to your system that the day is ending, and is going to help your body to start preparing for a restful night's sleep.
Yeah.
And I'm gonna keep it for those, to keep it with those steps, to keep it as simple as possible. Now, if you want to take it to the next level, as I mentioned, the e-booklet is an amazing place where you have like all these steps explained and laid out for you.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you so much for kind of that, and breaking down light and its power in a I think an accessible way. I'm not a hugely scientific person, and I was able to follow what you were saying. But if you are kind of at this point and like, hey, this is the benefit of video. Go back, listen to it again, take it a bit slower, pause it if you need to, because really what Rudy's saying is super powerful. So you don't want to just skirt over it, get to the end of the video and say, okay, I've watched the video. Go back, it's important. And also, if that's still not enough, as Rudy mentioned, you have the ebook. We'll make sure there's a link in the video description to that. So don't worry, you won't miss anything. So yes, go ahead, Rudy.
Yeah, I was gonna say that we are wired to learn through repetition. And if this information for the first time flies over your head, it happens all the time. And it happens with me all the time. And, when I started studying quantum biology and circadian rhythm, it wasn't easy. I had to repeat and repeat and repeat and repeat. And also, if you found yourself, having some questions, feel free to reach out to us at support@vivarays.com. And we're happy to connect and answer your questions.
Yeah. Okay, no, that's awesome. So just know, when good information is out there and good people are out there like Rudy, they're not trying to hide their light under a bushel or hide it anywhere. They really do want to share it. So do take advantage of that. It's really interesting and really powerful. So you mentioned, Rudy, VivaRays. You've mentioned it a few times. You've mentioned your journey. You've mentioned this 7-year journey about discovering more about the power of light. You didn't just sit down once you'd done that research and said, oh, this is amazing. I have reached the mountaintop of knowledge when it comes to, light. Oh, great. I'm good. You had a kind of a desire to kind of share that with people. And obviously, you know, VivaRays was born from that. So maybe we could just, as we kind of close our kind of chat today, tell us more about the journey of building VivaRays itself, the company, you know, because it's not hard. I know it's not easy building something from scratch, even if it may be the world's most amazing research. Tell us more about that journey. You know, how did you go from 7 years of research to, I need to start VivaRays and I need to, you know, what form does that research take? How did you go through that process?
Yeah, I would say the true pleasure and the true happiness and the true satisfaction is in the journey itself. So thanks for asking. And um, when I was learning all of this and I got back to the city, and I was actually asking myself a very authentic question. I asked myself, is there a way to have the freedom to live in a modern world while not compromising my sleep, health, and well-being? And this question back then led me to actually start learning about blue blocking glasses. And to me, I didn't think twice. I went on and I bought blue blocking glasses. And the first pair I bought, they were clear blue light blocking glasses. After wearing them for a few weeks, I didn't experience any benefits. And I was like, well, why? Like, doesn't make sense. I'm learning about all this, you know, information. It's supposed to help. But then I learned later that those clear blue blocking glasses, they were a marketing gimmick, because they actually turned out to block the blue purple light up to 420 nanometer in wavelength. And the problem is that if you measure the light that is being emitted from screens and even the bulb in your kitchen, it actually doesn't emit any blue purple below 420 nanometer, and it peaks at 455 nanometer. So those glasses, and they were very expensive, and they ended up being blocking the light that is not actually being emitted from those harmful frequencies. So I kept going on from you know, looking for something new, and I found like some orange tinted glasses, which I bought right away, and those somehow helped. But to be honest with you, I was still, something was still wrong, because I was experiencing unexplainable drops of energy, and I didn't know why. And what I actually learned on my journey of experimenting with these things, that, you know, not all orange tinted glasses are created equal, but also that you don't want to be blocking light in the same way all day, because as I mentioned, light is very dynamic. And if you were a human being spending your or living your life outdoors, you would be exposed to different color temperatures of light and to different amounts of blue light throughout the whole day, which will either promote wakefulness or sleepiness, and it will reset your circadian rhythm. So, you know, trying to block, for instance, blue light in the same way all day is like living under a sun that doesn't change its position in the sky. So imagine how destructive this could be to your well-being and to your rhythm. And I had to learn through the hard way, through experimenting. And I'm thankful for all the mentors also that I have sought, because anytime you're on a journey, people think they're alone. You're never alone. And anytime you think you're alone, you've actually missed it, and you've actually start walking the opposite way of where you need to be walking. And I think one of the beautiful things I learned on this journey is building my awareness to know truly in my heart that I'm working knowingly with the universe all the time, that my hands are universal hands, that my thoughts are universal thoughts, and that I'm never alone. And every time I found myself alone through the tragedy of, you know, my five senses, you know, I learned how to, you know, sit in meditation and kick my alone self and reunite with all that is. And when this happens, you start attracting all the people and all the forces and all the systems that you need to use and you need to attract in order to expand your service, and in order to give what you truly meant and what you truly want to give. And thankfully, I attracted so many beautiful mentors that actually taught me why is it that, you know, wearing those orange tinted glasses that I bought from a company was actually destructive to my rhythm. And it was because light is dynamic, and we actually needed a dynamic system that is able to block light, or actually enable different color temperature of light and block different frequencies of light depending on the time of the day and depending on the light that is present in nature. And eventually I met some awesome professional opticians from British Columbia, and we teamed up with them. This gives us access to high quality tools in order to measure. And this led to the development of, I call, one of the most advanced circadian lighting technology system. And notice that I use circadian lighting technology system. I didn't use the word blue blocking glasses, because I don't want VivaRays to be associated with this, because I do know how much marketing gimmick there is around the blue light blocking industry. And what's different about VivaRays is that it's actually designed to block and enable light in a way that harmonize with nature. This is why we have 3 different lens technologies for the different times of the day. So in short, community, taking care of my well-being, my mental health, filling my cup first, and being surrounded by wonderful people in our team, attracting the right people, and always knowing in my heart that I'm never alone, that I'm actually working with all the forces of the universe, is our keys on this journey.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And in terms of the challenges, because, as you all know, building something is not easy. There are challenges. What were some of the main challenges that you found, on that journey as you were building up VivaRays? Because it's not all plain sailing, as you know.
Well, a lot of challenge. I went into this world not knowing anything about marketing and advertising. And I'm not someone who actually enjoys so much the technical aspect of social media and like email marketing and all of these things, that I thought first that I need to learn all of this in order to operate. And this was challenging. I really wanted to quit. I'm like, no, like I can't do this. It's like, very overwhelming. And again, I'm going to come back to the key point of understanding that you're not alone. You're not doing this alone. All of the forces of the universe are working with you. Learning how to delegate, learning how to surrender, and not always wanting to be in control of every aspect. When you attract talents, trusting in those talents and knowing that those talents are doing it much better than I could do it, because they're doing something that they love, that is contributing to the whole mission. So being present, being attentive, and knowing that you're always attracting that which you're in vibration harmony with. So taking care of my vibration. And when I don't, it's challenging. When I think that I'm by myself, it's extremely frightening. So
yeah, no, that's awesome. And what have you enjoyed the most about building VivaRays and this journey you've been on whilst you've kind of been founding VivaRays? What have you, like, you look back and you say, Seth, I've just really enjoyed this part. What would that be?
That's a great question. There's a lot of things that I enjoyed, but what comes first is the increased level of awareness that I'm accessing. But awareness of what? Awareness of my relationship to all that is, and my oneness to everything, and to universal forces. And this is transformational. Like, increased awareness means that you're actually starting to see and act in a way that is different than you did yesterday. Okay. And when this happens, it's beautiful to witness, because you're on this continuous journey of dying to your old self and being reborn to your new self. And I think it's beautiful to celebrate death and rebirth through your own evolution. So dying to your old habits that do not serve you anymore, and being born again to the new you that you truly want to be, that you choose to be. And this is a continuous process that is always changing. So this uh, death, rebirth cycle, so to speak, has been accompanying me throughout the whole journey of working on VivaRays and expanding VivaRays. And I feel very enchanted to celebrate death, to be born again to the new person that I choose to become and I choose to be, and seeing and witnessing the ecstasy and the exaltation of giving, truly giving, because we're continuously receiving universal love and universal energy, and we sometimes block this flow by not re-giving equally. Okay, and we're always given as much as we are willing to re-give equally and re-inspire others. So this flow of continuously being a center of distribution, of allowing this energy to flow through and to distribute to my fellow human beings, to re-inspire them, to sleep better, to have better healthy light in their life, and witnessing the exaltation of seeing others being inspired and re-inspiring others is something I truly enjoy.
Yeah. No, that's so awesome, and you know, a great answer, Rudy. And it's really good that you're reiterating that. Something I really believe in. You know, we weren't meant and we weren't built, we weren't created to hold and to keep things to ourselves. It's just not in our nature. And I think when people that really do that, you see the effects. We know, especially from an original medicine perspective, that greed and that desire for self really can manifest itself in health issues. So it's really that psychosomatic link between the mind and the body, and our attitude in the body, and our emotions and our thoughts and our mentality in the body are really super strong. So really, I just resonate with what you said there. So as we close, Rudy, it's been awesome that you shared with us. Just quickly, as we kind of go over and close down our conversation today, you mentioned VivaRays, you mentioned the system. It's gone from my head. The Circadian Rhythm support system. I think something along those lines. You can go back and see how badly I forgot what Rudy was saying. But in terms of VivaRays, how can people kind of get a hold of VivaRays? How does it work? The different kind of lens options. Maybe just quickly share how VivaRays, the product, actually works.
Yeah, definitely. So our latest innovation is called Clip and Go, which combines the 3-lens technology system in one frame. Now, let's talk a little bit about the lens technology systems. The daytime lens technology system is designed to be worn when you're indoors, surrounded by artificial lights and in front of screens, only during the day. And this specific lens technology system address the 455 nanometer peak that I spoke about, that is emitted from those harmful sources of light. And it actually decreases its intensity, and it's designed to balance that blue out with yellow and green, because we are not designed to get blue light in isolation from other colors. Okay, so this is simply put. If you have more questions about the daytime technology and how to use it, reach out to us at support@vivarays.com. Now, the second lens technology system, you just snap it onto the same frame. So you could seamlessly transition from one lens to another and block the right amount of artificial light at the right time of the day. Now, what do I mean by right time of the day? I mentioned evening. The evening is designed to be worn right after the sunset. Okay, and it's engineered to mimic the color temperature of the fire or the twilight, because it blocks all of the blue and the highest frequency green, but it keeps enough green so that you can still socialize, drive, cook. And we want it to mimic this feeling that people have around a bonfire, right? Like when you're around the bonfire, you start calming down, you feel relaxed, yet you have enough energy to dance, cook, hike, and socialize. And this is the evening glasses. And as soon as you finish from your evening activities, and around 1 hour before bedtime, when you're really wanting to completely like do nothing and prepare for your ritual to go to sleep, you snap on the nighttime glasses. And those, they are designed to block all of the blue, all of the green, and to decrease the brightness by 15 times, which is a very important aspect and technology that differentiates us from others. And this is because the latest circadian research show that bright light of any color could also suppress our melatonin and shift our sleep in the wrong direction.
Yep. Well, that's awesome, Roudy. Thank you. We'll make sure that kind of links to VivaRays, support, everything that Roudy's mentioned will be in the video description. So don't worry, just click the little arrow, extend the box, and the description will be there, and you can really easily access all the links that Roudy has mentioned. So Roudy, if you'll allow us, as we close, we've got a quick fire close for you. Just 3 super quick questions. Give us your initial reaction, your kind of the first response that comes to your mind, and then we'll kind of end the podcast here. So 3 questions. Is that okay with you? You're up for that?
Yes,
that's
totally.
Cool. Okay, wonderful. Let's go. Okay, first question. Your top health tip that somebody who's watching this video now can do today to improve their health.
Watch every sunrise, block artificial light at night.
Oh, easy, light work. Okay, question 2. What's your favorite activity for your mind, body, or your soul?
My favorite activity. I have a lot of favorite ones, but
First one.
Swimming in the ocean.
Swimming in the ocean. Okay, perfect. Question 3, last question. Your best healthy habit that you would share with us. This could be like one of your secrets that you'd be like, oh, can I tell people it's so good? But I know you're a generous guy. So what's the kind of health habit that you have?
One?
Just one.
Okay. So my best one. Taking 1 hour for myself every morning and every evening to close my eyes and go inwards and connect with my inner self.
Wow, perfect. Roudy, it's been a pleasure. Roudy, co-founder, well, I say co-founder, founder of VivaRays. Roudy, founder of VivaRays. Got to get that right. It's been an absolute pleasure for you being with us. Thank you for sharing. It's been so valuable, and really wish you all the best in your journey with VivaRays. And hopefully we'll be able to talk again soon when your journey is a little bit more interesting and more developed, and we can have another wonderful discussion about light and about life. So thank you so much, Roudy.
It's been a pleasure being with you, Ben.
Thank you. Okay, everybody, don't forget, hit like, subscribe, all the usual YouTubey social media stuff. It'd be great if you can share this video if you found it interesting and valuable. Do share it with your friends, and do check back. We have much more videos and content like this interview with Roudy planned. So do check back. Until then, we'll see you then.